Born in East Los Angeles, Jaime Gomez. I bet you didn't know that was his real name. As represented by the flags. Jaime Gomez in the house. Followed his dream of being an entertainer and rose from humble beginnings to unimaginable success. The fates aligned in 1995 when Taboo, as he is now known, was introduced to his fellow bandmates will.i.am and Apple Diab at a breakdancing club in LA. The trio formed a friendship that would later evolve into a group that called themselves the Black Eyed Peas, as they felt their music was, quote, food for the soul. In 2003, vocalist Fergie joined the group and they released the breakout album Elefunk, launching the Black Eyed Peas into superstardom. Monkey Business, their fourth album, followed with more global hits such as Don't Funk With My Heart and Humps. Their fifth album, debuting at the top of the charts, The End, has broken several Billboard records with singles like Boom Boom Pow, which my son loves. Andrew, Boom Boom Pow, he's up here. There he is. And I Got a Feeling, staying at #1 for over 27 weeks. In 2011, the group had the honor of performing at the Super Bowl halftime show, solidifying them as one of the biggest acts in music history, and I love this fact. Taboo he has the distinction of being the first Mexican-American to headline the Super Bowl halftime show.
Yeah, baby.
Latinos!
So, having sold a staggering 55 million albums worldwide, the Grammy Award winners have brought their enigmatic fusion of pop, hip-hop, and dance music to a huge global audience. Taboo has been the driving force of their unique style and energy, which comes across on and off stage. Please welcome Taboo. Take it away.
And since we are welcoming you, I'm going to welcome you and ask you we were talking over there. Coming from a neighborhood in Los Angeles, in California, right? That is named after an Irishman. Boyle. He comes from Boyle Heights in California. Growing up in a multicultural, because there's a lot of Mexican, most of the majority, I think, is 90% Mexican. How was it growing up over there? How did you got influenced to become musically where you are now?
Primeramente, me da mucho orgullo estar aquí con ustedes este día. I just wanted to get that out. Yes, I do speak Spanish. Pretty fluent. And no, I'm not Asian or Filipino. I am Mexican. Yes. No offense to any Asiatics or Filipinos. That's Apple's world. Apple, the guy with the mohawk. But now to represent as a Latino, it's very important for me to let people know my story. And growing up in East Los Angeles to the age of 5 years old, it was different because I grew up in a project environment. It was very family-oriented, so I really didn't know anything about money or wealth or any of that. And then when I moved to Rosemead, California, which is maybe like 15 minutes from East Los Angeles, it was more kind of segregated. It was Mexicans stuck with the Mexicans and the Asians stuck with the Asians. And here I am, a guy who loves hip-hop, danced to hip-hop most of my life, had a black girlfriend, had a black and Filipino friend, and a black friend. I was kind of an outcast. So I would get made fun of, like, hey, you dance like a black dude, fool. And it would make me feel like, what was important to me was not getting caught up in race, color, or creed, but just getting caught up in enjoying music. And what drove me was dancing. And luckily, my grandmother, my abuela, was the inspiration to keep me going. And she was the person that would sit at her, in her living room, and she would be sitting in her chair, and she would introduce me. From Los Angeles, California, give it up for Jimmy Gomez. And I'll be up there doing my thing, right? But the reality was I was performing for my grandmother, and the joy and the happiness that she had in her face let me know that I could possibly bring that to thousands and millions of people through entertainment and through dancing and through the power that she gave me. So, yeah.
Well, and come on. And with that same experience, I want to cut to a video from a young kid that I signed at 17, growing up in the Bronx, growing up, and the Bachata Roots video, please.
So I grew up in New York, and you know, they say New York is a big melting pot, and I think that's very true. You know, I was born and raised in the Bronx. I grew up in Patterson Projects. I grew up in the projects, and you know, there I would meet so many different people. You know, I'd meet blacks, whites, Hispanics, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Colombians, Dominicans. And I was always very attached to my Dominican culture. I would listen to hip hop, R&B, reggaeton, bachata, merengue, salsa. I would listen to some rock. I'd listen to some techno. So I think New York definitely played a big role when it came to music because that's I took in all this music and I was such a big fan of so many different genres, and I would go to the Dominican Republic every summer or every 2 years, and over there is when I really would get into the whole tropical genre and the scene, and that's what made me like wanna sing bachata. I wanted to be a part of a genre that could still represent my family and represent where they're from and where I'm from, but with a different twist. And I said, why not? I was recording R&B, I was recording pop, and I started recording bachata. To see, let's try it, see how it goes, and fortunately, and I got very lucky that everything worked out, and that's why I'm here today.
There you go. That's my boy. So from Meatloaf, Black Eyed Peas, Prince Royce. Can you take us on a little tour how you built one of the most successful management company? I want to be like you when I grow up.
Well, I grew up in a Jewish community. I had a grandmother too and an aunt, but I didn't dance. It was artist by artist. I was an artist myself. I was signed to Warner Brothers Records, and at the time, the Vietnam War, they were looking for kids my age, and the government said, if you will go to graduate school, we'll give you a deferment. If you're going to be a recording artist, you're going to go to Vietnam. So I gave it about a 30 seconds worth of thought, and I applied to law school. And when I got out of law school, one of my clients was Meatloaf, and another one of my clients was a guy named Jim Steinman. And in short order, and another one of my early clients was Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band before they really happened. And I went to see Bruce at the Stone Pony in New Jersey, and he was much better than I was as an artist. And Jim Steinman's lyrics, he wrote Total Eclipse of the Heart, they were much better than my lyrics. And meanwhile, these guys were talking to me. I was the entertainment lawyer, and they were listening to me, and I thought, maybe I'll be an entertainment lawyer. And then what got me into management was Meatloaf. I couldn't get him a record deal. We had, we tried, and we weren't getting anywhere. And I had about just enough money to finance a record on spec with Todd Rundgren. And we had the record Bat Out of Hell in the can. Every single record company passed on it. In fact, they were establishing record companies for the sole purpose of passing on Bat Out of Hell. Many record companies did just that. They'd be open for one day, they'd pass, and they'd close. Anyway, the record has gone on, notwithstanding what was said, it's gone on to sell 62 million albums, which is the second biggest record of all time. So suddenly I found myself in the management business. I was managing Meatloaf. And that was a unique situation. It was a big, large man, from Texas in a tuxedo. Not exactly a guy named Meatloaf weighing 360 pounds. Not what, you usually look for in a leading man. But there was something theatrical about it. It was very unique. It was like Beauty and the Beast. And it really worked. And from there, I had a hard time finding something else, to really want to manage. And so I guess for me, I had the unique experience of doing something extraordinary, very different, against the, the conventional wisdom. Most record companies, if vanilla ice cream is selling, they're looking to sign vanilla ice cream. And I showed up with this Meatloaf character. And I was always looking for something unique, and it was hard. So in 33 years of running our business, we've only signed 35 artists, and we have 12 people in our company, and every month one of them thinks there's somebody worth meeting. So that's like 12 people times our 12 people, say 140 clients that we might sign in a year times 30 years. That's like almost 5,000 people. We've signed 34. And 24 of the 34 have gone multi-platinum. So we've been very particular about who we sign. We look for something special and unique. I don't look for, you know, what's happening right now, because whatever's happening now is not going to be happening in 10 minutes. And whether it was, you know, the Black Eyed Peas or the Fugees or BB and CeCe Winans or a Jimmy Cliff, you know, everybody has been unique and special. And really, it's been all about finding people who write great songs and people who are charismatic and people who are passionate and who live can really go over. Because as a manager, you can't guarantee your clients that you can get them on the radio, but you can get them into a club. And if you can get them into a club, you can get some people to come see them. And if they're really good, then maybe we'll get someplace.
That's right. You said something very interesting, that which says, great song, and everything starts with a song.
I agree.
And knowing that, how being Latino, we were discussing this, has helped you or hinder your career, and now that you are on your solo path,
We're not breaking up. Just to make it clear, Black Eyed Peas is not breaking up. What he means by solo is just we're branching out and doing individual side projects.
That is correct. So they're not breaking up. So how Latino, you know, being Latino and this new generation of Latino and this buying power that we have now, you know, talking about trillions of dollars, have helped you in this music industry?
Well, actually, you know, I right now in this point in my career, I'm like kind of like going backwards. And you know, I had so much success with the international appeal of the Black Eyed Peas. Then now I'm going to my own community and I'm saying, hey, yo soy Latino también, right? And I'm doing this music, creating sounds that I grew up on, you know, from salsa to merengue to cumbia to tropical, rancheras. These are the sounds that I grew up in, and what my group has been able to do is mesh different sounds and different inspirations and create this new Black Eyed Pea sound. So for me, it's kind of like I'm trying to run the race of being Latino, and I question myself, like, am I not Latino enough? Do I have to always wear a Mexican flag and an American flag to show that I'm brown and I'm proud? Why? Because people don't really know that I'm Latino. With the Black Eyed Peas, it's always been a mystery. Like, who's the scary guy with the long hair?
That was me.
Who's that guy? Who's the Asian-looking guy? I don't really know what he is. He's kind of like mysterious. But now it's like with the solo side project, I want people to know how important my Latino culture is and how beautiful other cultures are.
But the Black Eyed Peas, sorry to interrupt you, the Black Eyed Peas music, what you brought in from Boyle Heights and all the members coming from Boyle Heights, it does have that Latino infusion in there.
It does, and that's the problem that I run into, is that because we did do a song called Latin Girls on Elefunk, and we did, you know, have Spanish titles like Que Dices on our first album before Fergie was even in the group. And, you know, and in the skit I'm saying, you know, I came to bring the rain, pendejos, and I'm talking like, you know, slang, and I'm talking all this East LA Mexican slang on the first album, but still people don't really associate me as a Latino. And that's why now it's like I'm running and I'm saying how proud I am, and not trying to force feed anything, and not trying to be stereotypical, but show a different side of what a Mexican American who grew up in Los Angeles but had inspirations in New York. Because I was inspired by East Coast music. I was inspired by De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, KRS-One, Boogie Down Productions, and that was East Coast music. In Los Angeles, we had NWA, which I liked, but I couldn't relate to it because I was a dancer. You know, I loved MC Hammer at the time, Kid and Play. I loved Kid Frost, but it was more like Cholo style, so I really couldn't represent that because I wasn't a Cholo, I wasn't a gangster. I was more of a b-boy who was a dancer and liked to perform and liked to entertain people. And so, just to answer the question, I incorporated a lot of my Latin roots by incorporating Spanish in the albums and trying to figure out how can we let people know that all our nationalities are beautiful. Apple's from the Philippines, I'm Mexican, will.i.am is an African American who grew up in a predominantly Mexican community. He was the only African American family in his community, so he always wanted to be Mexican himself. Honestly, he'll tell you the story.
It's 0.004% were
right.
blacks.
Yeah, and Fergie, she grew up in Hacienda Heights, and she was surrounded by a lot of Latinos as well. So we try to incorporate as much of our cultures into the music as possible.
Well, it shows. And cutting to that and saying on the Spanish one, I want to cut into the video called Spanish and English, so you can see how the twist from the East Coast, from Prince Royce, come about.
I think that a Spanish-speaking artist like me appeals to a lot of these fans because, I have a variety of experiences. If I'm talking to a fan that only speaks Spanish, I can talk to them comfortable and real because I speak and I write Spanish very fluently. I also identify with the kids that grew up speaking mostly English and maybe not too much Spanish, and I identify with them as well because I only spoke Spanish at home and I just spoke English. I spoke English for the rest of the day, mostly in school and with my friends and in the streets. So it's interesting to me when I'm at these shows because sometimes I speak in Spanish and some fans tell me speak in English because I don't understand much Spanish, and then sometimes I speak in English and some of them say speak in Spanish because I don't understand much English. So it's when I'm performing, I basically talk English and Spanish every line because I want to make sure I grasp the whole audience. So I think it's something very interesting, and I'm here to grow with the fans. I'm here to grow and try to get everybody to listen to my music, not just English speakers, not just Spanish speakers, but people from all over the world.
Can I add on to that?
Yes, you can.
He hit on a perfect point. Growing up in the United States, I was one of those people. A lot of Latinos, young Latinos, we forget about our Spanish language because we are in the United States. And sometimes we get to school and they'll be like, oh, you're a mojado, you're a wetback because you speak Spanish. Oh, I'm American. And it happened to me. I found myself not wanting to speak Spanish, going as far away from my roots as possible because I used to wear African medallions and I used to have my hair in braids, and I was, doing things that weren't typical Mexican in my neighborhood, and it wasn't typical.
What's typical Mexican?
Everybody in my neighborhood wore Dickies and white T-shirts and bald heads and spoke like this and stood like this, but I was like, I was the dancer. And they'd be like, hey, go ahead, Holmes, do your thing, hey, this vato's crazy. But the thing about it is that because I kind of shied away from it, I was able to embrace other cultures. I was able to embrace African American, Asian, Filipino, white, and I found love in other cultures. But then as I got old, is it okay to stand?
Yes. It's your stage, sir.
And as I got older, I was able to, thank you. As I got older, I was able to understand how important my culture is to me. And I started learning Spanish through Chespirito, watching El Chavo del Ocho, watching Sábado Gigante, watching El Gordo y la Flaca. I was really into it and trying to find out, okay, so speaking Spanish and English is very important because you could get further than just speaking one language, and embracing my culture and being appreciated by my own people. And as I kept on going, I started realizing that eventually I wanted to do Spanish music because that's where I come from. That's what my grandmother taught me. So how am I going to do this Black Eyed Peas world and totally neglect the Spanish world? I'm not going to do that. And when Prince Royce said that like he has to speak English and Spanish, I kind of feel like that too. I feel like, now when I do shows, I do have to incorporate Spanish music in my set when I'm doing the Taboo experience around the world to show people how proud I am of that chapter of my life and how important it is to be Latino, proud and proud. Sorry to get all like walking around like I was, Steve Jobs or something.
It's your stage, bro. You can do whatever you want.
Rest in peace.
I'm going through the same thing. I have a 7-year-old boy that, it's English only and Spanish speaking at home, always. And we need to read in Spanish to him. And talking about Spanish, Royce is your first Spanish artist.
Second.
There you go. Stand correctly. Second Spanish artist. How do you came to meet him? How do you came to start working with him?
First,
You gotta be a little cooler though, dude. You can't be dropping your microphone.
I never should have gotten up.
Yeah.
You know, my firm represents a few sponsors, one of whom is Samsung. And Samsung was looking to do some work in South America, and they gave us an A list of, you know, people like J-Lo and Enrique and Mark Anthony, and then a B list of some people that might do some more local things. And so I was looking through the B list, and one of the artists was Prince Royce. And I saw online his video of Stand By Me, and it just really took my breath away. The tone of his voice was incredible, and it was kind of like a Latino Bruno Mars, and I thought it was really cool. Anyway, we made a deal with Royce, and I got to know him, and he didn't have a manager, which was pretty amazing to me. And you know, I was sort of saw Obama's foresight in recognizing how important the Latino community was. And then I realized that there were 61 million Spanish-speaking people who live in America, which makes this the second largest Spanish-speaking country in the world. And I also realized how much music there was in that community and how progressive it was and how hardworking and industrious everybody was. So it seemed like it would be a pretty cool place to sort of lay my hat. And I spoke a little Spanish, un poco, and Espanol, and I'm trying to get better at it as well. So I like it. I like it. And I like Royce, and this has been I've only been with Royce a little more than a year, but it's been an incredible year, and he's a great guy, and I'm very excited.
Great. And talking about that and the new generation Latino, because Royce is a new generation Latino, we're going to cut to a video so he can tell us more about the new generation Latino and what Stand By Me meant for him.
He's been very eloquent so far, don't you
think? Yes. He has a good manager.
That's true.
I think I'm definitely a part of this new concept of a new generation Latino. Growing up, you know, I'd always talk Spanglish with my friends, with my cousins, and it was something pretty normal for me and my friends. I would talk Spanish at home, and I'd talk English in school, and with my friends and my cousins, it'd be a little bit of both. I'd switch, you know, between English and Spanish, and you kind of didn't know that you were doing it. It was just something that happened naturally. And I think that, you know, my first single, Stand By Me, is a perfect example of that. Taking a song that was 50 years old, a big, huge record in the past, and revamping it in my own way, and taking it and changing the lyrics and making some parts Spanish and adding the Latin flavor and adding the bachata. So I think that you know, it was the last song of the record. I had already finished the album, and we came up with the idea like, hey, why don't you record, you know, like a cover? You know, originally the first single was Corazón Sin Cara, and Corazón Sin Cara didn't seem to work on Latin radio because I was a new act. Nobody really knew who I was or what I was about. So as kind of a strategy, we thought, why not record a song that's already a hit and see how that goes? And originally I was like, cool, you know, the first song that came to my head was Stand By Me. For some reason, it was always, you know, when I thought about a classic, that song immediately popped up to my head, and I said, you know, why don't we record Stand By Me? And I went to the studio, I produced it, I wrote the Spanish parts, I produced it with a guy named Dice, and you know, we did it. And originally, to me, it was just something cool, something fun to add to the record. I didn't think that it was gonna be the song that really got my foot in the door of the music scene.
Nice. And getting the foot in the door, I don't know if a lot of people here knows that you already have collaborated with Juanes, with Juan Luis Guerra, Frankie J, to name a few. Can you just tell about that experience? Because for him, it's going from the English zone into Spanish, and you collaborating with those huge stars. I mean, coming from Black Eyed Peas and collaborating with them.
Well, I've always been a fan of Juanes. Let's start with Juanes. Juanes is a good friend of mine. He is inspirational because his personality, besides him being a great artist, was something that I really gravitated to him on a personal level. Bless you. And when we talked about doing a collaboration, he was very open to it, and he's just a great musician that inspired me, and Will I Am is the one that produced the record, the remix to La Paga. And as far as Juan Luis Guerra, he's also been an inspiration to me growing up, listening to his music. I've collaborated with Paulina Rubio, collaborated with Siete from Puerto Rico.
You collaborated with a good friend of mine that not a lot of people know, but in the West Coast, he's really good, David Rolas.
David Rolas, yeah, he's definitely a great friend who I knew when he was DJing back in the days at clubs. Right. But all that stuff stems from the way I grew up. You know, what a lot of people really don't know, that the way that I started was, I had a son at 18 years old. So I had to really motivate myself to take care of my son, because I knew that I had to take care of him, but also feed my dream and my passion, which was music. So during the day, I worked at Disneyland. And at night, I pursued my dream as a Black Eyed Pea. And this was in 1995. My job was, I picked up horse manure for a living, but I chased my dream at night. So I've always had these dreams and aspirations, and I always dreamed of working with huge Latino artists like that. And then eventually that would stem to create a solo side project, which was more directed to the Latino community. And I created that. And hopefully this year, si Dios quiere, something will pop off for me. And I'm still hungry. I'm like a new artist. I don't look at what the Black Eyed Peas have done, because now I'm rejuvenating and giving a whole different side to me, to my artistry, and my expressing myself. Creating Spanish music is different because Spanish was something that I had to learn on my own, and even though my stepfather spoke Spanish at home, I didn't really have a connection with him. So I had to kind of find my way of writing Spanish and using words that were that appealed to all Latinos, not just Latinos or Mexicans in East LA, because that's all I knew. I just knew that type of slang. So I had to evolve and create music that best represented all Latin cultures.
And talking about Latinos, we were talking in the green room a little bit about the Jays.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you know that his name is Jaime, his wife's name starts with a J, and his 3 kids start with J's.
And
Can you elaborate a lot?
We are now the J5. Literally. Joshua is my oldest son. Jalen is he's the 4-year-old, and then Journey is the 2-year-old. My wife's name is Jamie, and of course I'm Jaime. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I know he said you should do a reality show. Let me put out an album first and see how that goes.
Well, talking about the reality show, you got the master right here about branded entertainment, right? Can you talk about a little bit about partnering up the brands and the artists? What is it, the synergy that they look for, and how you're able to pair it up and make that happen?
Well, it's interesting. When I started out in the business, artists didn't want to be involved with brands. Certainly a rock and roll artist, it would be a sellout if you'd be involved with a brand. And I think it wasn't until Michael Jackson really did that big Pepsi tie-in that it became kind of embraced in the pop culture. Then it became very, very embraced in the hip-hop culture. Became kind of like a badge of honor. And ultimately it was embraced by everybody, to the point where today, like U2 will do a tie-in with Apple, a big tie-in, something that they would never have dreamt of doing, 15 years ago. It's even more important for artists today because record companies are really not well funded. They're not making very much money. Their idea of a big launch is $40,000 video and hope that you get on the radio. It's not like when you release a motion picture and you have tens of millions of dollars in prints and advertising and a major campaign, or when a brand launches a product, it could spend hundreds of millions of dollars globally going after something. And brands, have the money, corporations have a lot of money, and they want to be user-friendly, so there are plenty of artists for them to choose from. They try to find the right artist. The hard thing is to find something where it's a comfortable fit and where the art is still present. Probably the most successful thing that I ever did was a tie-in between Fergie and Candies. Fergie had written this song on her solo record, Big Girls Don't Cry. And actually, even though she had written it, she didn't want to put it on her record because by this point in time, the P's had become very cool, and she thought maybe Big Girls Don't Cry is a little corny, maybe it's a little too mainstream, it's not happening. So we said, look, just put it on the record anyway. But nobody at the label, nobody was really focused on that song. We had 2 or 3 singles out on her record, but I always wanted to see that come out. The label wasn't interested in pushing that as a single, so we did a tie-in with Candies, and we didn't have the money for a video. So the label came up with, the brand came up with $150,000 to shoot our video, and they agreed that they would just do a 1-minute spot of just that video, no Candies product, no shoe product. It would just say at the end, Candies. So that was a pretty elegant way for our purposes, because it was just doing that, and that song exploded. But you're talking about maybe $30 million in advertising in this country alone. It did great for the brand, and it far and away was the biggest song Fergie ever had. And so, it shows you the power of it. With the P's, when we were just really sort of cracking it, we did the first iPod commercial, Hey Mama. We ended up sort of being eclipsed a little bit by our own success with a couple of other songs, but that was from a visual, that was a huge thing. I mean, those whole shadow dancing things that became the iPod style really were the Black Eyed Peas. They originated that vibe, and that was the brand's look for maybe 4 or 5 years. Natasha Bedingfield did something pretty cool. We did a tie-in with People magazine. Now that was not a cash kind of deal or a media buy, but People has a pretty broad reach. And we did the first press and play where Pocket Full of Sunshine was, if you bought a People magazine, you could open it up and at page, I don't know, Gimel, page 28, for those of you who don't know what Gimel means. At page 28, you'd press and you'd hear the song. So that was a free download early on. And brands are very, very important, especially globally, especially I think in the Latin community, because when everyone says that music is universal, and it is, but it's the English language combined with music that's the universally accepted language. In Japan, they're playing Japanese music, and you'll hear English. Occasionally, an artist, say like Michel Tello from Brazil, will have a hit. Or, you can have a Spanish hit. But as a matter of course, you don't hear French spoken or sung songs. You don't hear German songs. You don't hear Chinese songs. You hear English songs everywhere.
I have to disagree. What about Gangnam Style?
Well, I'm not saying there's not the occasional, freak of nature.
Well, Michel Tello, you represent Michel Tello, right?
Yes, I do.
And Brazilian is Portuguese.
Yeah. But
that's one's,
But it's a very, very difficult thing, I mean, even Michel now. So Michel now just did a song with Carlos Vives, and now it's being embraced much more in the Latin community. And I believe that, in the same way Royce was talking about Spanglish, in the same way that in many ways you chose to let your first language be English and the Spanish is coming back at you, I think that a little Spanglish can go a long way in bringing this culture on a global basis. If you're not going, for those people who won't, condescend to bring some English into the purview of their artistry, then the right Spanish song hooked up with a global brand can have a lot of impact. Because again, Spanish music is incredible, but you need to hear it. And if mainstream radio in America is not going to play it, but a brand will, or at least play the track, that can get you pretty far. So brands are very important.
I'm going to cut to Roy's video, which is crossing into English because you said English. And I know he's working on an English album, and I heard some of the tracks because he played me over a couple of months ago. Can you cut into that video, please?
You know, we're definitely working on trying to get my music out to as many different countries, as many different places as possible, and I think that we're definitely going to be able to make that dream come true with these upcoming albums that I'm working on. I'm working on a new Spanish album. I'm working on a new English album that's going to be English pop. So we're definitely broadening the horizons and going places where I think my music's never been to before. You know, I've collaborated with so many different artists, and we see it today with Enrique Iglesias and Pitbull that they're out there on mainstream pop radio, but they're still representing where they're from. They're still representing their Latin roots. You know, I just collaborated with Jessica Sanchez on a record where it's English, and then we also did a Spanish-English version. So the goal is to definitely continue to grow as an artist, continue to grow as a songwriter, continue to let people know, those people who don't know who Prince Royce is, get them to listen to the music. And you know, even though we're working on English language music, it's still gonna be that same Prince Royce flavor. You know, I still wanted to still keep that Latin vibe. I still want to throw some Spanish here and there, and I think that's where we're going for. I think we've been doing a great job so far. I've been loving the music, and I can't wait for everybody to hear.
One last thing, I'm just gonna cut, and I'm gonna ask this question to you, and to Royce, and I'm gonna start with Royce. The future. Can you just play the future, and what is it about, and then with you, David, and then with you, Taboo.
The plans for the future for me is basically don't stop doing whatever it is that I'm doing now. I'm still writing, I'm still recording, I'm still on tour, I'm still looking into new things. You know, I dream with opening up my own record label. I dream with starting my own line of clothes. I dream with doing a lot of things with merchandise. I dream with getting into film and doing some acting. So basically, you know, my plan right now is to just don't stop. I'm working on the Spanish album. I'm working on the English album. I'm also one of the coaches on La Voz Kids, which is a Spanish version of The Voice with kids. So it's also a different experience for me working with kids and trying to develop an artist. So basically, you know, I've been very blessed. I'm so grateful with the fans and with everybody that's been supporting me. And right now, the sky is the limit. And thank you for listening to me speak. Take care.
The future for you, Taboo.
Well, first and foremost, continue being a role model and a strong father figure to my children, which is very important. Being a great husband.
That's not so hard when you have a gorgeous,
Thank you.
smart wife.
Thank you. You know, and the reason why I say my being a great husband is because my wife has been with me since before the fame and anything. We met each other in 1999, and when you have a woman that could balance your lifestyle and balance your ups and downs, it's very important to praise that, you know, and I'm not ashamed to do that. Yes, I am married and I'm proud. Do we have 3 wonderful children? Yeah, see that?
That's
bling, bling. So let's start with that, because he hit on a great point of being a human being before I'm any artist. Before I'm a Black Eyed P, I am father and I am husband. I will continue to grow as a man, as an individual, continue to get better as a performer, as an artist, as an actor, as an entrepreneur. We'll continue to do more of these type of forums. Hopefully, you know, we'll see each other again. And just continue to inspire the world. Be the role model and the person that young Latinos like myself look to. And even if you're not Latino, just someone that you can be inspired by.
But I like the excitement of this. And I'm also, you know, the whole thing about English and whatnot, you know, Shakira is an interesting study because, you know, Shakira was this hot, incredible, explosive girl. And everybody thought, wow. But when she tried to cross over into mainstream, in terms of the English-speaking world or outside of the Latin communities, she really had a pretty difficult time. And that Sony machine was pounding to make it happen. They hooked up with Wyclef, you know. They did Hips Don't Lie, which was a big success for her, tied in with the World Cup and lots of brand promotion, but it still didn't really crack. She came back with another record, and actually her record sales were even a little bit less. Now, she's really made a commitment. You know, she's really trying. She's on, have you seen her on The Voice? So I saw her, like, I thought she was adorable. She's really holding her own, and now she's being exposed to the mainstream audience, which again, I think, you know, there's a lesson to be learned. You know, maybe the Arabs and the Israelis can learn from this. You don't want to just cater to your own set, you know? If you really want to be global and if you really want to communicate, you have to find ways to communicate. And that's holding on to who you are, but also, you know, venturing forth and making some compromises in a wholesome way, which is the same thing I'm talking about with the brands, not making it be work, making it not be a problem.
Thank you. David?